Hello there, and welcome to Simon's Shed, and welcome to N-Gauge. Yes, this video is going to be a little bit different. It's the start of a new series, and it's going to go right back to the beginning, and this is assuming you have no knowledge whatsoever and you're just starting out or thinking of starting out in N-Gauge. So if you are, you have your layout already, you've been collecting trains or whatever, there may not be anything in this video for you, but feel free to look at all the other videos on my channel. So yes, this is aimed at the complete beginner. I'm assuming no prior knowledge at all. So let's start at the beginning. What is N-Gauge?
N-Gauge. The N just means 9 because there are 9mm between the rails. You can do so much in a very small space.
So that's what N-Gauge is. Why would you choose N-Gauge over one of the other scales available for model railways? Well, chiefly it's the size. The amount of track and scenery that you can fit in to a given area is more in N-Gauge, as it's a smaller scale than most, whereas you still retain a lot of the fine detail. So for example, 00 is a more popular scale, but it's roughly 2 times the size of N-Gauge. Just to illustrate this, here's a very simple track plan in N-Gauge. This is actually using the second tightest track curves available, so it's not even it can actually go a little bit smaller than this, but we'll get onto different curve radiuses in a later video, I'm sure. But this is just to illustrate in N-Gauge what you can actually fit in. I don't know if you can see, but that is 90 centimeters, so about a yard that way, and that is 55 centimeters that way. We can get in a little loop of track, whereas in bigger gauges you would need, if you double the size, you double the scale, you would actually need 4 times the area to get the same amount of track in. So you really can fit in a lot into a small area. So there are more popular scales, but they're bigger. There are smaller scales, but they're not nearly as well supported commercially as N-Gauge. And for me, N-Gauge is just the perfect balance between still retaining the level of detail that you can see on the locomotives and being able to fit a lot of track work into a small area. You've still got the commercial support. The main 2 companies currently in the British market anyway are Graham Farish, which is part of a company called Bachmann, and Dapol, which is a UK based company. There has been a recent release from Hornby, who you probably will have heard of even if you know nothing about model railways at all. They've recently released an N-Gauge Brighton Bell model, so but currently the 2 big players in N-Gauge are Graham Farish and Dapol. And what's happened sort of over the last sort of 10 to 15 years is there's been a trend towards more detail, more accuracy in terms of really scaling down the models to be very accurate representations of the real things. And just to give you an example of that, this is a recent Graham Farish release. It's a steam loco called Tornado, and you can see, just to illustrate the level of detail, even inside the cab of the loco we've got the firebox door there, and we've got the pipes and gauges represented. So you can really see the level of detail there that we're talking about. And In case it's not coming across on the picture, that is a 50p sterling, just to give you an idea of the actual size of it. N-Gage does have the commercial support. You know, there's obviously steam locos from the 30s, 40s, 50s. Good support for diesel from the 70s and 80s. Passenger trains. There's more modern stuff coming out recently. So some of the more recent locomotives and passenger trains. I'm trying to sort of keep it. I won't go into detail about sort of different classes of locomotive and things like that, because, as I say, I'm assuming you may not know anything about trains at all, and I certainly didn't when I started. So I wouldn't let that stop you. I wouldn't let that put you off. I mean, literally, the first locomotives I bought was because I just liked the look of them, and don't see anything wrong with that. If that's where you want to start, that's absolutely fine. There are so many sort of directions you can go in. You can collect the locos, you can just display them, you can just run them on a little loop of track, or you can create a whole layout with detailed scenery and trees and buildings. It's entirely up to you. There's so many aspects to it. You can, go into the electronics and sort of program automated setups so that the trains can run automatically. Or, as I say, if you just want a beautiful model of a locomotive to put on display on a shelf, then that's absolutely fine. So I'll just give you a quick look over some other bits. Obviously, as well as the locomotives, we've got coaches, and just to give you a sort of idea of the level of detail involved. Again, you can see it on the bottom there, that white lettering. Don't know if that's coming across, but the stickers on the windows, we're talking really sort of finely printed and finely moulded detail on the recent releases. You've got these old wagons, many variations of these. These are only sort of £3 or £4 each, so if you just want to start collecting those, then that'll keep you busy for a while. Oh, it's rolling away. Again, we've got vehicles. Now this is from Oxford Diecast. Make a lot of the N-Gage cars and trucks. There's a lot of sort of 50s, 60s vehicles represented, and a bit after that and a bit earlier than that. But we're just starting to get some more modern stuff represented, hence the Stobart truck. So again, you can see the level of detail we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, I guess the manufacturers are just following where the money is, where the popularity is, and if there's a demand for, there's obviously a lot of demand for people who remember steam from the 50s and 60s, hence the proliferation of steam locos, but we are getting a lot more support for more modern things these days, so I'm sure you will find something that you like that you can just buy off the shelf in terms of locomotive models and coaches and so on. So, where do you start? Well, I think, this is where I started. If you just pick up the latest Graham Farish catalogue, that will actually give you a good little introduction, because there's an introduction piece at the start, and this is a good illustration as well. This is all the pieces that go into one locomotive, so you can see the kind of effort that goes into just making one locomotive. And again, this is a all about the benefits of N scale, and a good example of the sort of size. That's 5 foot 6 by 3 foot, that little layout there. So that's the sort of thing you can achieve. So I would pick up a Graham Farish catalogue and have a little browse through and see what takes your fancy, but I would highly recommend starting with a train set, because you'll get everything you need to get the thing actually running. They tend to be good value for money for what you get in them. They tend to sort of try and price them to encourage people to get started, to hook you in. So the only sort of technical thing I'm going to mention in this video that you really need to know before you buy the train set is there's two ways of controlling the trains: DC and DCC. So DC, obviously you've got a track with two rails and you're plugging the controller in to the two different rails essentially, and you're putting a positive and a negative charge on each rail. As you turn the controller up, that increases the current. As you turn it down, it decreases it. So that's speeding the train up and slowing it down. Simple. However, if you put two trains, two locos on the same track, you turn on the power, they'll both move. You have no way, on the same track, you have no way of sort of separating out the control. So that's where DCC comes in. DCC involves a little computer chip on board the loco that says, right, you've turned up the power, but you've got locomotive number 1 selected, so you can move that separately to locomotive number 2, and even though they're on the same bit of track, the same circuit if you like, you can control them separately. So currently most locos come as DCC ready. So let's go through the possibilities. You've got DC only, which means if you want to try and convert it to DCC, you've got to start soldering and things like that, which is obviously for an absolute beginner. We'll put that aside for a moment. Then you've got the majority, as I say, which are DCC ready, which means usually literally just lifting the body off, sliding a chip in and putting the body back on. It's not as scary as it sounds. It is easily doable, and there is a video on my channel of how to do it. You've also got, sometimes you get DCC fitted, where it's already fitted with a DCC chip. Even if you decide to go for DCC, I would still recommend getting a train set that's DCC ready. In other words, it's just got the normal DC controller. The reason for that is the next loco you buy, it'll probably be DCC ready, so you'll need to test it when it comes out of the box, and to test it you'll need a DC controller. So that's why I'm saying buy a train set that's DCC ready. It also has the benefit that the DCC ready ones are actually cheaper train sets to buy. The ones you can see here, the DCC on board, because they come with a DCC controller, they can be a little off-putting in terms of the price as a first splurge of cash to get into the hobby. So you can pick up a DCC ready train set for around £100. This is the one that I picked up when I got into it after my initial attempt, as I say, with trying to buy everything separately. I did in the end actually just go for the train set option, and I'm glad I did in the end. I'm not sure if this one's still available. It was a couple of years ago, but yeah, that's what I would do. And if you buy one of the Graham Farish train sets, you'll get the track, you'll get the controller, and usually a loco and some coaches or wagons, depending on whether it's supposed to be a more sort of industrial thing like this or a passenger train. and there are some really beautiful locos available in train sets these days. I'm not going to pick out a particular one because it just depends on the availability at the time. Some of them sell out really quickly, and others stay on the shelves and get discounted, so have a look round. Pick up a Graham Farish catalogue, have a browse through to whet your appetite, and literally I would say just pick a train set that's DCC ready with a train that you like the look of, and as I say, that will give you the option in the future, if you do decide to go DCC to control the trains, you can just open the loco up and put the chip in and away you go. So there we are. Welcome to N-Gage. Please let me know if you've got any questions or any suggestions. I'm hoping to do more videos in this series, so tell me what you would like to see and what questions you have. So until next time, have fun and I'll see you soon.